hard to do that. Look at this bitch. What's she doing? Is she actually trying to get to their lane, or is she just up and blocking me? Like, oh, watch, I'll just get in the other lane. Yeah, look at me. Look at me. I see you looking too.
Hello, everybody. How you doing? Pebble. Cool weather! Woo-hoo-hoo! You know, like when you try to pull off wet clothes and it's just like, that's like what your gear's like. Oh, look at these little things. I like to run these over. These little temporary bumps in the road. They look like a post-it note sticking up. Watch, I'll hit a bunch of them with my foot right here. Anyways, I wanted to talk about why you have to buy a Japanese bike. Now, this won't pertain to all countries, but it's definitely an American thing. Sure, you can buy all kinds of exotic European brands, you know, anywhere from a KTM dirt bike to a Moto Guzzi or Ducati sport bike. You know, you go all over the place. There's all sorts of cool things you can buy that are not what the Japanese for. For me, and for a lot of other people that agree with me, when you're gonna buy a bike, something you're gonna use a lot, you buy a Japanese bike. You just do it. It's the simple thing to do, and it's the thing that makes the most sense. Before you keyboard warrior rage at me and tell me about like KTM hard parts or one of those sites like that, shut the fuck up. Listen to me. Now, I know firsthand from working at a KTM dealer what it can be like, and I've seen many of the other ones. For instance, let's say I buy a KTM. First of all, just finding a dealer to one's going to be harder. They're going to keep their stocks are way down. They likely won't have what you want. For instance, one of the only KTM dealers around me, or what I used to work at, closed down. So the closest one to me is out in Dallas. And I was out there a few months back, and they only had like a KTM 350 EXC and like a two-stroke, one or two little two-strokes, like 200 or something, and then a couple junior bikes. That's it. No 450, no 500 EXC, no 690 bikes. Nobody keeps a 690 bike in stock. They order those things. They won't risk keeping those in stock. And the reason why is just because it's too slow of a seller. Woo! Yeah, they're just not gonna ever sell those fast enough. It'll end up being one of those situations where it becomes a leftover and they just end up losing money on it. So let's say you do track down the bike that you want, when you find the dealer, you're probably gonna have them order it in. So you're not even gonna get to see what you want until you get it, in a lot of cases. Now, if you're buying something like a Ducati, yeah, the local Ducati dealer is gonna have in what you want, you know, at least one color. And when it comes to compared to a Japanese bike, just to begin with, let's say, you know, this is the WR450. This is an $8 bike, brand new, off the showroom floor. If you were to buy a KTM EXC 500, you know, a very equivalent bike, electric start lights, and hell, it's got 50 more cc's. That bike will run you about $11,000 out the door. That right there is going to stop a lot of people from buying one. And then once you have bought it, you're looking at everything that you want to buy for. It becomes more expensive. This really becomes into the money side of things. You want exhaust, you want a tuner, you want aftermarket plastics. A lot of it runs a lot more money. I know there's always going to be somebody arguing with me in the comments saying, well, no, look at this. They're going to be comparing something or saying how they used to have this and that. Sure, there's always going to be exceptions. All these bikes are going to run you more money for buying them and for parts when you want to, like, if you want to modify them, exhaust, any of that stuff. It's just over that edge where you could say, well, I could spend $15,000 and have a KTM bike and convert it to a supermoto, or you could spend like $10,000 and buy a WR and convert it to a supermoto setup. You gotta, most people aren't gonna be wanting to spend an extra $5 to have something orange. I will say a lot of those bikes do offer some cool stuff in return. If I was on a KTM 500 right now, it would probably be about 20 pounds or so lighter, extra little oomph of power. I'd have a 6th gear. At the same time, then I can go back and say, yeah, well, I'd have all that stuff. I'd also have some equipment that's just going to be less reliable. And this could easily start a flame war on here about this. Because you know you know I'm right. It's about all the stuff that they bolt onto it to make them legal is like the most unreliable parts on it. Oh shit, can I do 4th gear sit downs? Wait a minute. This one, pay attention, it goes the other way. I'm saying this because this will be on the route on Saturday at the meet. People like to go straight on that turn. There's a lot of parts, like for instance on the KTM, they're just a little bit more finicky. They, like the electric starter system's not as strong, they tend to strip out and break. The headlights they put on those bikes are like they're like a house bulb, they're not like a halogen. And you have to get this kit to swap it out there and put the right bulb in there. You're just gonna blow out bulbs constantly. I don't know what KTM was thinking. It's like they build a decent dirt bike, you know, a dual sport style dirt bike, and say, okay, let's slap on this street legal equipment, and don't even think where they're putting it. And it goes to all the dirt bike manufacturers that are European that do that. It's like Hussey, I want to say it is, right? That puts the turn signal directly in the path of the exhaust on their on some of their bikes, so it melts the first ride. Now it's darker out, yeah. So the parts on the Euro bikes sometimes are a little bit more finicky. The bikes themselves just aren't going to be as reliable. There'll be plenty of argument, I'm sure, in the comments about this, and some guy's example about that. Typically, Japanese bikes that come out on top as far as reliability goes. It's gonna start, run, and just do its thing over and over and over again. I know so much though from working at a KTM dealer that you can't argue with me about it, that KTMs are sort of a finicky bike. You get one the way it wants to be, and they're happy, and keep your oil changes up and everything else, and they'll do you pretty good. But even then, you know, big bumps, you know, down the road of its life are going to come sooner than a Japanese bike in most cases. I mean, one thing that really sucks is I really wish one of the big Japanese 4 was more interested in supermos the way somebody like KTM is. They're just not as enthusiastic about them, you know, and that sucks. Let's chase the sunset on the back wheel. That's what gets people to buy one of those Euro bikes over a Japanese bike most of the time. It's so damn windy! Even when I worked at a KTM dealer, the parts just aren't as available. We used to use that KTM something hard parts, some other supplier than KTM that keeps parts in America. They were actually more, they were faster than they are. Our actual main dealer connection would be through KTM itself. But even with that, man, we used to have guys come in that would need something very simple at the beginning of the week. Got to get something done to it. You know, I got a race this weekend. This is like Monday, Tuesday, and they're not worried about it, but I am, because I already know how this shit goes. There we are on Friday, and the guy's going, dude, is it ready yet? Is it going to be ready? And we're like, hey man, I'm sorry, we just don't have what you need yet. You know, this is what you get though when you buy like a European bike, no matter what it is. You're going to get something that's kind of exotic. So yeah, which means when you go somewhere, you go to a meet, you go ride it with some other people, your bike will probably stand out. Really good handling machines. They've got a superior suspension, really good geometry in their chassis. They're just they're good at that. Something like the dirt bikes, a lot of times they're a good bit lighter, and they run a pretty damn strong motor. You don't get near as many parts quickly available to you. The parts you are going to buy are going to cost more money. The whole bike itself will cost more money. You're buying something that's more finicky. And when you think about it, you're buying something that's kind of finicky, and it's going to require a little more maintenance and parts, yet the parts are harder to get. That's such a turnoff, man. That's such a turnoff to something like a KTM. I've always said I wanted a KTM, an EXC model of some sorts. The smarter decision would be to go with something like this WR. It just is. I just think your money's better spent and time's better spent in a Japanese bike. Sorry if that makes you hate me. If you disagree, that's fine. Disagree, you can tell me about it in the comments. I know we're all gonna have difference of opinions. There's bound to be lots of KTM guys watching this video that are just pounding their keyboard. Their keyboard's You're gonna beat the fuck out of him trying to tell me how wrong I am right now. Do you know how fucking ridiculous it is to do a valve adjustment on a Desmo system on a Ducati? You gotta take the fucking head off. The only bike that's European that it's coming to mind right now that really breaks all those rules is a BMW. Those things are pretty fucking reliable. Bike is loud in here. Listen to this.
They're like basically standard.
No, you don't, Jake.
Bikes.
You can't even say it's a good idea. You fucking bastard.
They're just really not.
It's not that bad. Oh, you
Right,
piece
right,
of
you
shit.
make one handle
I'm
half
sorry.
the
I'm
race,
just
but-
saying what I think. Fuck you and your thoughts.